Welcome back. The FBI director this week warned Congress of increased terror threats inside the U.S. since the war started in Israel. He says groups like al-Qaeda are calling directly for attacks against Americans. And here in Tennessee, a rise in anti-Semitic incidents has the Jewish community alarmed.
It is a time to be concerned. We are in a dangerous period.
FBI Director Christopher Wray says the war in the Middle East is spurring new terrorist threats inside the U.S.
Just the past few weeks, multiple foreign terrorist organizations have called for attacks against Americans and the West.
Wray and Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas told senators Tuesday law enforcement is working around the clock to monitor rising threats targeting Jewish, Muslim, and Arab communities.
We are engaging extensively with faith communities.
They say the biggest concern remains lone actors inspired by terrorist groups abroad, many of whom are calling for attacks against Jews.
This is a threat that is reaching, in some ways, sort of historic levels, so they need our help.
DHS expects the heightened threat environment to extend through 2024, in part because of the violent images circulating online.
This is not a time for panic, but it is a time for vigilance.
But Republicans like Senator Roger Marshall say it's the president's border policy putting Americans at greater risk.
How many illegal aliens in this country or here on asylum have direct ties to Hamas, to Hezbollah, to the Islamic Jihad?
Let me assure you that the individuals that pose a risk to our national security are our highest enforcement priority.
Right now, DHS is asking for additional funding to combat all national security threats, including $6 billion for border security. In Washington, Raquel Martin.
Tennessee is seeing a rise in anti-Semitic incidents since the Hamas attacks in Israel, according to the Anti-Defamation League. Nationwide, incidents have risen nearly 400% since the war began. News 2's Kendall Ashman reports on how one organization is sharing that shocking data in Nashville.
Just south of the intersection of Briley Parkway and Murfreesboro Pike.
So the billboard in Nashville says, "Cultural Jews died in the gas chamber too. Speak up."
416 billboards like this have been placed across the country. 3 are here in Nashville. It's a campaign created by the national organization Jew Belong.
Jew Belong needs to be compelling. We need to be a little shocking, and we need to get your attention because this really is a matter of life and death.
Archie Gottesman says she was shocked to see anti-Semitic incidents skyrocket in the U.S. after the conflict erupted in Israel.
We're seeing it in every part of society. We're seeing it in every state in the country.
Eitan Davidson with the Anti-Defamation League says 312 anti-Semitic incidents have been reported since October 7th to the 23rd. 190 of those are linked to the war in the Middle East.
But college campuses have certainly been flashpoints since the horrible massacre on October 7th committed by Hamas against Israel.
Gottesman says she hopes by blasting a message like this here in Nashville, it will keep the crisis in the forefront of everyone's mind.
And this is not just an Israel-Jewish problem. This is America's problem. It does not matter if you are Jewish or not.
Images of investigators converging on Margolin Hebrew Academy back in July left many in shock after shots were fired outside the heavily protected school. Thankfully, no one was injured. Tonight, the accused gunman looks at charges. Today, Tennessee Governor Bill Lee and United States Congressman David Kustoff spoke to students and staff at the small Jewish school, not only to discuss support following the outbreak of the Hamas-Israel war, but commending the school for its response to the shooting.
The security measures around this school, I'm proud that our leadership and the staff and your staff on July 31st was able to prevent what could have been a tremendous tragedy.
Congressman Kustoff citing the prevention came with the help of federal and state funding through the nonprofit security grant program.
That's firsthand personal stories that I can take back to my colleagues in Washington and say, you know what, this works. And it's money well spent.
Governor Lee weighing in as well.
School safety initiatives work. They worked in this school and they'll work in other schools across the state. The ability for schools to improve their hardware, their fencing, their camera surveillance around their facilities, all of those things are a part of hardening a school. But then school safety grant funding that allowed for armed SROs in schools. All of those initiatives are an attempt to make our schools safer.
Lee expects expanding school safety to be an ongoing discussion.
I think school safety and public safety in general is something that we won't stop pursuing, and we won't stop talking about, neither in my office or in the General Assembly.
Stay with us. This Week continues in a moment. And that will do it for this week. You have a great weekend.